Hey, it's episode 6 of Life's a Garden. Welcome back to Life's a Garden. Today's guest is a writer, actor, and producer, and has appeared in several independent films. He is an ex-collegiate track runner for Montana State University, and he is also the host of the Versed in 10 podcast. Ladies and gentlemen, Pow Williamson.
What's up, buddy?
How's it going?
Yeah, it's good. It's nice. I'm glad to finally be on this one.
That intro only took 3 takes? It's
yeah,
all
it was
good.
just fine. As far as anybody knows, that was the first time. And it was smooth
but
and
I've screwed
golden.
it up. It's all good.
It's all good. I had time to...
We tell the truth on this podcast.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah, we don't tell the truth on the other podcast.
Right.
I can say whatever I want. But actually, I don't edit anything on the other podcast. I just leave it in until... I just let it at the transitions because that's the funny part. But.
Right. Yeah, no, I tried to do some sneaky transitions on the last one, and I'm not as good, so I just let it flow a little bit.
Yeah, but what is this, like episode 6 or something?
This is episode 6, yeah.
Yeah, all right, very cool.
Yeah, I'm getting close to them double digits.
Yeah, catching up to me, especially because this past episode I took off like 3 weeks or something like that. Because like I mentioned on that other show, it was busy with just 4th of July, and then switched jobs up too, so I kind of had that going, and then just like everything just busy stuff. So I'm glad we finally got to it though. It's a little spur of the moment, but it was solid because we had to do the crossover this week. So
yeah, I know. So Versed in 10 podcast, check it out on Spotify. Is it on YouTube too? Or?
I don't have it on YouTube anymore, but I just Spotify.
Okay, so Spotify, Versed in 10. I am featured on this week's episode, so we had to do a little crossover. So Pal is here on my podcast as well.
Yeah, it's the crossover that gets it right. I am like all the DC shows, you're like all the Marvel shows, and then we'll just cross it over.
Yeah, there you go. I'll leave a link to the podcast in the description, so you can check out both podcasts. What's up? You said you went to Bible?
Oh, yeah, so today has been a busy day as well.
Yeah.
Because I had some friends in town. They were only in town for a week. They're leaving tomorrow. And I was like, I'm probably not going to be able to see them the rest of the day, so I wanted to squeeze them in as well. But my buddy invited me to do this like Bible study thing where we meet up and we just read a full book of the Bible. We were reading Acts this morning. It's 6 a.m. I was like, all right, that's fine. But last night was my last training shift at Thirsty Street. But it was a closing shift, so they were like going real slow, going through all the motions of like how to close. For the most part, I was like, yeah, I get it, kind of move on. But like, so I was there till like midnight. Got to bed like around 1 when I finally fell asleep, and then I woke up at 5:30.
Oh, jeez.
So but I took a good power nap in the middle of the day. I was gonna go to the gym, but I was like, you know what? I'll power nap so I'm ready to go by the time we're podcasting here. And then, yeah, so we did that. We read through Acts, which was really cool. It's really nice because we kind of just did like popcorn reading style, where like someone reads a chapter out loud, and then next person, then just kind of go in a circle. And then we talked about it for a while after. It was super fun. I think we're gonna try and do Romans next week.
Cool.
And got that done. Got back home. Said bye to the friends that are going to be out of town. I think they were going to stop by my house later, but I won't be there because got this, and then right after this I'm going to work the country club, which is fun, by the way.
Sweet.
Yeah, really enjoying that. I'm trying to live my best Caddyshack life.
Have you played golf before? I don't remember.
I've been to the driving range a couple of times, and like I've played 18 holes like once or twice.
Oh, yeah?
But that's about it. I'm surprised like my short game is actually pretty good. I just need to go to the driving range because...
That's my favorite thing.
Yeah.
That's all I've done.
We should definitely go because I have a set of clubs. I've been meaning to go, especially since I've been working at the club. That's all those guys talk about, and that's
Well, I was
what
wondering
it is.
if maybe you'd start playing golf a little more now that you're working there.
Or
if maybe you might play it not at all because you don't want to be there as much.
I definitely want to. I can't play at the club, I don't think, because I just work there, so I can't get in because you have to be a member to get in. But I'll definitely go to like par 3 or wherever and just like hit some balls with you because that sounds like a lot of fun.
You know what I like is Top Golf.
Yeah, I've never been, but that's always
You've
been something.
You've never been to a Top Golf? Oh,
no, because they have one in Denver?
I don't think so. Because usually they're in warmer places because, it's just such a huge facility. It's not even worth having just part of the year.
Yeah.
There might be one near Denver. I'm not sure.
Yeah, we were talking about it this morning with my friends who were leaving because they're going back to sort of the Portland area. Okay. I think they said Portland has one, or whatever town they're from, Salem or something like that.
I can see that.
Has one, but like they have it's pretty swanky. They kind of have heated facilities and stuff. So like, if it is a little cooler out, I don't know if it works when it's like real snowy and super cold, but I'm assuming when it's a little cooler, like fall time, it's sort of warmed and all that stuff, which is really fun. And then you can get drinks and stuff just there. But yeah, that's something I'd really want to do.
Yeah, I know. Vegas has one, and I the only one I went to was in Phoenix, and it's a lot of fun. Like,
yeah, you talk up Phoenix quite a bit.
I love Phoenix.
Yeah.
Like I couldn't do it in the summer. It's just too hot.
Yeah.
I hate 95 in Montana. Like I couldn't do 107.
Yeah.
I'd die. It gets up to like 120.
Yeah, it's rough there. We've had hot days, but we're definitely more known for like -20 days.
Yeah, so I'd rather have a -20 than a 120.
Yeah, I'm used to it at this point. Like I'm okay with it, but when it gets too hot, my body, I just start sweating, and there's nothing I can do to stop that. So anything warmer than that, although I wouldn't mind living somewhere new just for the sake of living somewhere new,
sure.
like somewhere down south or in California or something like that. I actually really want to live in the Northwest somewhere Oregon or Washington area would be really fun to just, I feel like I would like it. Maybe not quite in the big city, but I lived in Fort Collins when I was in Colorado, which is an hour north of Denver. That's perfect, because if I can like take an hour and get to a city and like watch a professional sports game or do like stuff in the city, that would be ideal, but where you don't have to deal with like crazy rush hour traffic and all that stuff.
Yeah, I could never live in like a big city. Every time I go to Denver or Phoenix or something like that, it's really fun to be there, but after 3 or 4 days I'm like, I couldn't do this every day.
Yeah.
It's all it is. It's a vacation. I couldn't do every day driving, just going to work and stuff like that. So I would agree, if I had to live somewhere, it'd be like a Fort Collins or something just outside of a big city, because I would love to be near a big city where you know you're going to get concerts and and sports and all these different activities just right down the street. A weekend, you can take your weekend and go to the
absolutely
to the city.
And a lot of people sort of talk crap about Billings, but I mean, just having grown up here, there's plenty to do, and it's like it's almost as much as like if you lived in a big city, other than like, because we still have a music scene, we have concerts that come through. We've got, for me personally, I kind of define it as like, oh well, we have an IMAX theater, so that's kind of like, because I'll do that every weekend. I'd do that every week back when movies were open, which is still just killing me. Movies and sports got shut down at the same time. I lost my mind for a bit, so I had to start a podcast.
What are you going to do if theaters shut down for good?
Oh, there's talking right now, because the big one that's supposed to come back is supposed to be Tenet. It's supposed to be the big one first in theaters.
Right.
China just announced, I think like today, that they're not going to allow it back in the theaters for the foreseeable future, just because it's over 2 hours, which is past their like their restriction time limit thing. And I figure, like, if you're going to be in the same space for an hour and 59 minutes, what's an extra 15, you know, kind of thing. But that's what we were talking about before, is why they were shutting bars down at 12:30, when if you leave them open that extra hour and a half, there's still the same amount of people in there. It's just they're in there for longer, but it's not, I don't know.
It doesn't make sense.
The construction, the stuff's kind of weird, but yeah, Tenet's supposed to come back. I'm really hoping for it. Christopher Nolan's my favorite director.
That's right.
And I'm really wanting to just get back in the flow of watching movies, and that's my favorite pastime. Yeah, I'd say right up there with sports. Just like, those are my favorite things to do. And they, like I said, they both shut down at the same time, so I was kind of like at a loss there. Did a lot more reading than I thought I would.
See, I don't know how to read, so it's like no, I do struggle to read. When you brought up like the popcorn reading thing, I immediately got like
flashbacks.
Yeah, some like PTSD, because what I would do, I'm not even kidding, in school, was I would count the amount of people that it would take before it got to me, because we would do paragraphs,
and then
I would count the paragraphs, figure out which paragraph was mine, and I would read through it several times so I knew what was going to be said. Yeah. Because I knew if I had to do it on the spot, I would stumble my words and I'd feel like terrible, because I'm just not a good like fast reader. Yeah, and I mean, like if you know that, that's fine. That's not like a thing either. It's something we can work on. But there were definitely a few kids in class where it's like they were the ones that volunteered to read first, and we're all just like, hey man, I want to get out of here before the hour's up. And it was a struggle to get through. But I was also like this morning just with like a group of friends and stuff and reading about it. So it's smoother, it's less pressure or anything like that when you're in front of like the class people
or something,
you know
reading
versus
too,
people like strangers or anything like that.
Plus, even something to be said for this podcast, like Verse and 10 that I do, and then I'm sure you might have felt the same way too, having done yours and done mine a number of times. It helps with sort of the public speaking, just because you're forced to kind of be aware of what you're saying as you're saying it,
Right.
and construct things well. So I think that helped as far as like I haven't read aloud to people in probably years.
See, I've noticed a difference in, like, from the beginning when I started doing this podcast, even when I started doing your podcast, when I was doing a few episodes there, I just noticed different things that I like, the way I would say things or the way I spoke. I think part of that had to do with drinking.
Yeah.
So, like, I definitely notice a slur in my words when I start drinking, or just the way I speak. But I have noticed a change in the way I speak on a podcast. But the public speaking thing, I've kind of lost that a long time ago, just doing music.
Yeah.
Like that, having to be the singer, and you're the guy that has to, like, kind of choreograph the crowd and get the crowd into it.
Yeah, for
You
sure.
kind of lose it really quick as far as, like, the fear. However, you're on a stage with other people. I could not imagine being, like, a solo act.
Have you ever like forgotten the lyrics or something like that?
Of my own songs, I have. Yeah.
What are you doing that? Just kind of roll with it and just like...
Well, you're supposed to. Because, and it makes sense because, I mean, it'll fuck up everyone else.
Yeah.
But the crowd doesn't know unless they've heard your songs a bunch, or if you have a recording of it. But it's a matter of, like, I've sang the song a dozen times in practice. I wrote the song. You would think I know it. But when you're up there and you're trying to focus on how you're acting, am I doing things right? Do I look do I look good on stage? Am I sounding good? You're looking at the crowd, you're trying to engage with them, and you're focusing on how you sound, like if your pitch is right. And then you just forget the timing. And so then the timing comes up, and then the words don't come to you immediately.
Yeah, that's even rough. I mean, because like you and me, we do karaoke as often as possible, a couple times a week, if nothing else. And I mean, there's songs that we've sang dozens of times, but if the words weren't up there, that's one less element that you have to worry about. So you're up there, and really all you're like, that's what I enjoy about karaoke. Is you're just there, and you're really just trying to like put your own inflection into it and have fun. Plus, obviously, we're drinking when we're doing it too. But like, there'll be songs I've sang a million times, but I would forget the words, or like when something comes in, if it wasn't for the counting that was up on the screen or whatnot.
Yeah. So yeah, that's definitely nice on that aspect. When I if we ever made it big and we're like on a big stage, I would 100% have a teleprompter.
Yeah, for sure.
Just with the lyrics on it. So if I forget, I can look down and see it.
Yeah.
What I'm gonna do now, just to avoid that from happening,
just lip sync.
No, I'm not Ashley Simpson. I'm gonna put like the first line to each song on, like, right next to the song. Because if I have the word, even just the first word, that's enough to spark my memory.
Oh, for sure, yeah. Because then by then you're already into the flow of it, so that helps.
Yeah.
Yeah, I watched your first episode of this podcast, and you were talking about embarrassing moments. And immediately I was thinking of one that perfectly ties into what we're just talking about.
Okay.
Because in high school, we had our big concert for choir was like Pops. So we got to... Each senior, or I guess the people that were like in the varsity choir type thing, got to choose a song they wanted to sing, just any song. Okay. As long as it was approved, you can't. I mean, sort of thing. But you got to choose what song you wanted to sing, and then there was a whole concert where that's what people came to, and they just watched people do like their solo acts or like duets and stuff with people.
That's kind of fun.
Yeah.
What grade is this?
Well, what was that?
Senior?
West High. Oh yeah, yes. This was my. I think this was my senior year, because seniors that could choose their song. So it's called Pop's concert.
Oh, okay.
And I wish I had like been as into like singing like karaoke style music and stuff, because then I would have known what songs I could do well and like pick one that's really. Now I know how to pick crowd pleasers and stuff that I can do well and all that stuff. But I just picked one that I kind of knew. It was a slower acoustic song. It was really fun. It was actually me and my buddy that I did the Bible study with this morning. I had him come and play acoustic guitar for me as I did it. It's called Mario Kart Love Song, and it's just a really cute song. And it's so we just sat. He dressed as Luigi, I dressed as Mario. We sat on some stools. He played the acoustic guitar, and I just like serenaded the crowd, lulled them a bit. But if I would have known, I would have done something more fun, more that like fits my personality. You imagine me just being a little bombastic on stage, or doing something all-star or whatnot. I mean, or Creed. I mean, if I would have done Creed back then. And
it's like, don't you? I have so many things like that where I just wish I could go back and do it over again, because I would have done it better, or I would have done it different.
Yeah, because I was featured on another person's song, because he was like, hey, I want to sing Friday by Rebecca Black.
Oh, jeez.
And so that was, you could pick any song, and so he chose Friday because that was right when it was hot, you know.
Yeah.
So he was like, hey, Pow, you want to do the rap part on that? I was like, yeah, sure. And I was like, yeah, okay, I've got like a couple weeks or whatever to learn it. So I would listen to that song and I'd write down the rap part and make sure I knew it. I definitely didn't practice enough, but there was like a rehearsal type thing that we just kind of sang it in front of the class. And this was maybe a week out, and I had learned enough of it to where I kind of started. And then during class, I was going, didn't quite nail it, but I was like, okay, it's fine. I've still got a week. Then we got on stage. The transition is he's there, he's kind of singing the chorus part, you know, and then I'm just off stage. So I haven't been on stage yet, and I walk out wearing this like leather jacket, some sunglasses, just really swagging it up.
Yeah.
I come up and I'm like, R.B. Rebecca Black. And then I was like already off, and then it was already still going, and I was like, I'm definitely not going to pick this back up again in my head, and like this is just in front of everybody. And so I was just like, nah, just never mind, keep going. And they had to wait until like the music caught up to where he jumped back in, so we just kind of sat there on stage quietly for like 20 seconds as the rap part would have been going, and then he jumped back in. It ended up working because, I mean, the song was like it was funny, like it was fun to do it, and so like that added to how funny it was. But I did still feel bad because it was like, you know, you mess up in like the big concert.
Oh, I feel that in my soul because like I said, I've messed up the words to my own songs.
Yeah.
And like I said, what you're supposed to do in that event, it's hard in that case because, you know, people know the song.
Yeah.
But the two things, even if you're not the singer, if you're guitar player or drummer, if you get off or if you mess up something, you just play it off like that's how it's supposed to be.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what I would have am supposed to do, and I did kind of do that. But at the end, I was like, "Yep, forgot the words to my own song." It's like that's just you'd never do that.
So you could just like play it off, especially like singing. You could, as long as you know the melody, you could be like, just throw a couple of whoas in there.
Yeah, exactly. So, or even if you're just mumbling the words, as long as you know the melody.
Yeah, that's what's cool, and what I really appreciate about jazz is they can just like take off and. There's no mistakes. It's just like, oh, let's see how we can stumble into something cool, and like, I mean, I guess like that's sort of freestyle, and I'm sure just jam sessions too happen like that. It's just like, oh, let's just mess around, let's just play some stuff and see where it leads. I always appreciate that because I'm not as musically inclined as far as instruments, or I mean, like I said, I was in choir, but it was more just so I could have a blow off class with my friends. And I love singing, but never was in anything official. So I always appreciate like musical talent. It's really fun to like watch. Right.
Okay, so here's one thing I had on my mind that I wanted to talk to you about. And since we were talking about embarrassing stuff, I figured this is a good point to bring up.
Yeah.
Out of all the people I know, or at least the people that I, hang out with and go out with and all that, you have this innate confidence that there's a few people who are up there too, but you're one that, because we hang out quite a bit.
Yeah.
And I just, how
you're talking about embarrassing moments and this innate confidence. I think I know where you're going.
No, I'd like to hear that. I had no specific direction, but I just wanted to applaud you for your confidence that you have, because it's something I truly wish I had. So with Pow, we'll go out to the bars, and there'll be a table of lovely ladies sitting there, just doing their own thing, and sure, we both notice. But unlike me, who will notice and be like, "Oh yeah, they're very attractive. Sure, would be nice if they came over to the table, or if I had the balls to go up and say hi." Pow has no issue with that. He'll just go right up to him and be like, and spark up a conversation, and 90% of the time it works.
Yeah. See, I'm thinking specifically that last time that we were, or like when, like there were the two sitting at like one table there, and then I think you'd said something. That was when we were out with like a bunch of other people, like random people.
Okay. Yeah.
And then one of the guys at the table was like, "Did he just do that? He's got the balls that." So he ordered us a drink while I was standing there. I 100%. I'm gonna be honest with you. It's all fake confidence.
Hey, but I can applaud you for that too, because
Yeah.
I can't even bring myself to that.
Yeah, if you can mentally fake it, then you roll into it. And I've told you this many times when we're out or whatever. It's just like, what's the worst case scenario? Because in your mind, you play it up, and it's the most terrifying thing. But say I go up to somebody and I spark up a conversation. I get shut down hard. Then I'm just back where I started. No ifs, ands, or buts. But best case scenario, something might come of that. So it's really just kind of about feigning that confidence until.
I do not have that ability. The only time I can do it is if I've had several drinks in me, and like I just have to be feeling it. Like there's been a few times that I'll, you'll get me in there and I can kind of vibe it out a little bit. Mm-hmm. But even if I've had a few drinks, I'm just like there's this mental block. Yeah. And I can't get past it. But I mean,
I've been because I've been seeing this girl for a while, and she kind of like said the same thing, and I mean, I guess she noticed it too, because I mean that's like I'm trying not to like hold back. So I mean, if you don't like hold back and you're just totally yourself, that comes off as confidence, not in like a cocky way or something. Right. Like just like if you're so super comfortable with yourself, that comes off as confidence, because people are like, everybody's trying to hide like something, or like play it timid. Right. Or play the game or sort of thing. But if you just go in and you're just yourself, even she was saying that she noticed, because I met her friends the other day for dinner, and just right off the bat just was myself, was cracking jokes with these people I've never met before, and just jumping right in and getting myself in conversations, because I also was trying to impress them, because it was like her best friend, she'd just gotten engaged, so I was just like trying to make sure I had some solid footing there. But also the more I was just comfortable with it, she was like, are you like always like this? Are you always like so able to just kind of talk with anybody? And the more I've done it, the easier it's gotten, and it's really nice, because I feel like I could just talk to anybody or meet random people and be able to find some friends somewhere and not be lost in the corner in the back room of something, Right. So
see, and I have no problem talking to people, just strangers. My problem is I don't have like the enthusiasm all the time. Mm-hmm. Sometimes I do if the conversation is something that I can get on board with.
Oh yeah.
But I can't create conversation that's going to become, and I can be enthusiastic about just anything. Yeah. You know what I mean? I just have a hard time with that. Yeah. Because a lot of times I just don't care. Mm-hmm. I mean, if I'm just sitting at the bar and somebody's sitting there and they try and talk to me, I'll talk back, but I'm not always going to be that guy that's able to make it just the most interesting conversation. Oh, and eventually I lose interest, and I just, it fades.
It's surprising I can kind of get away with sort of just talking to people about whatever, but I really hate small talk. Like I hate just the conversations that mean nothing. Yeah, or like, talking about the weather or whatever.
Conversations that you have all the time.
Yeah, stuff that doesn't really mean anything. And I get that there's kind of a social aspect of that, just to have conversations with people. But I'd rather walk right up and first thing be like, so do you believe in aliens or whatever?
Just something completely out there. I was just thinking the same thing. Yeah. Like, just start off with the most controversial topics. Mm-hmm. Like, so where do you stand on the political spectrum?
Part of it is, and this has kind of just been something that I've realized I've done, and now I realize I do it, and this helps with sort of the jumping in and the confidence thing, is that people just tend to get uncomfortable. Yeah. And especially in any situation, like whether you accidentally mess up saying something or whatever, So I've made an effort to where I start the conversation in an uncomfortable spot with whoever it is, especially if it's someone new. This, but one of my all-time things that I say, like when I'm like, somebody says, "Oh, hey pal, how's it going?" And I say, "Not much," or if they say, "Like, what are you up to?" I'd be like, "Pretty good." And so I've rewired my brain to where that's what I say automatically. So
they're already off.
So they're like, "Wait, I didn't say that. What are you talking about?" And then it's not that I'm trying to get like the upper foot on the conversation, but I know I won't be uncomfortable, and because they are
playing field.
Yeah, if they get a little uncomfortable, I feel like I can smooth it over to where they're okay with it. Okay. Whereas, it's always tougher starting off a conversation uncomfortable. And every time people come back from the bathroom, I just ask them, "How was the poop?"
I know. God, I can never. Or like when they leave to the bathroom, you say, "Have a nice poop."
Yeah. And I say "sweet dreams," and that's now my sign off phrase as well on Versed in 10, "Sweet dreams."
I even have an episode called "Sweet Dreams," and it was actually because there was parts in the episode that pertained to that, but then I was like, that's a good homage. Yeah. So
Yeah.
I thought
So
you'd like that.
little stuff like that. I think the subtlety of understanding awkwardness and it's sort of just mastering the awkwardness more than confidence. I think is a big portion of my charm, I guess, or smoothness.
Fair enough. You mentioned you're in a somewhat relationship, right? Like that's how would you?
Yeah,
it's a complicated situation.
Yeah,
I know.
It's a rough situation because we just met on Tinder and it was kind of just casual thing. She seemed pretty cool. I was like, oh sweet, this super like nerdy girl because like I've always had zero luck on Tinder. I hate Tinder.
Right.
But I was like, you know what? I'm gonna try one last time. Download the app again and.
Isn't that how it always is? One last time, and then you end up finding somebody worth it.
So I was kind of like, I wasn't trying to like be too cool or anything. I was just literally trying to be 100% myself. So my opening line is like this nerdy Lord of the Rings quote is like my opening sort of like pickup line. So I was good because I was able to weed out the ones that were just like, no, I don't want that. You're a nerd or whatever, So which is good because I don't want to invest in that at all. Found this one girl, super cool, super into nerdy stuff. So we met up, we'd been hanging out. She's like, but turns out she's moving to Texas in August. So like a couple weeks.
So is that for school or?
Yeah, she's going down there so she can get residency, and then after a year being there, she'll go to grad school there. So it's one of those things where it's like, yeah, she's not going to not leave, and I've only known her for about a month now, like 3.5 weeks. And so I'm not going, like, we've talked about every possibility because the more that we hang out, the more we're really into each other. And it's like, this just sucks. And sometimes that's how it goes, but.
So now what happens in the event that possibly the schools don't, like, come into session? And it's just all online.
Well, as far as she knows, because she has to move there, she's going to be down there for a year before school starts, even because she has to get residency.
Sure.
So it's not about like she's going to go down and start school right away.
Okay.
So she's going. She's got it all set up and everything. Yeah, it's and the thing is, I'm never about distance relationships because I just don't think they can work.
I've never been a fan. I've never really had that scenario brought upon me, but I can imagine that is something I wouldn't be interested in.
Yeah, but I mean, you never know. I mean, for some people they work. I'm not saying they don't work for everybody, but it's just really tough, and relationships are already tough enough without adding that into it. So,
let's talk about relationships, huh?
Yeah. How's your relationship life going?
Non-existent, but
you're living the single man life though. But.
I am, and I fluctuate a lot between wanting a relationship and loving just being single. So I find myself bouncing between that on a regular basis. Probably a week-to-week basis where I'll be like, yeah, it would be really nice to have somebody to just hang out with and somebody that is with you. Yeah. As opposed to just somebody random or somebody just that's there for that night. Yeah. Somebody who's like your constant person.
And as the boys, I mean, we've seen this with every, like, one of our boys that, like, gets in a relationship type thing. And it happens regardless of, like, how much you try to fight it or not, is that once someone's in a relationship, they're not really coming out as often. They're not, like, hanging out. And that's understandable because they're with somebody that they're hanging out with, and that's a priority thing, too. But even with us, I was also like really busy this past like month or whatever with all different stuff. But then like I said, it's a new lady too. But I've been wanting to still hang out with you because we'd probably hang out like 2 or 3 times a week or like go to karaoke or something like that. And then it got down to maybe once a week or.
Well, you're essentially my last single friend. Yeah. That would frequently come out.
Oh yeah.
Or enjoy just we go out a lot.
Yeah, and that's part of it is it's like, I mean, when you are single, it's like, oh, I get off of work. It's not like I'm already have plans with somebody. I can just hit up Dakota and be like, hey, you want to meet at the Crystal in like 20 minutes? And then we do. Whereas now there's like, not in like a bad way, but an already obligation of somebody that you're probably going to hang out with whenever you have free time. So now it's just more of a factor of I just have to plan it out and be like, okay, yeah, Thursday night, I'll be off of work. Let's do that or something, and just planning out ahead. And that goes the same with like all my friends or hang out with my family, or I have to get coffee with my sister again. I think we missed coffee this week, but I've been trying to be more intentional about knowing when I'm hanging out with people, so that way I can actually do it, as opposed to just letting friendships, relationships, whatever, go by the wayside in favor of stuff swinging, which happens, but
that's one thing
I'm
fairly poor about too, is that I wish I was better at, was just my friendships in general. I try and keep contact and like in touch with a lot of my friends that I don't see as much, but I need to, it's not something I wish I could do, it's something I just need to do because I'm fully capable of doing it.
Yeah.
It's just, making contact with all my friends whom I don't see on a regular basis. I just need to. It's not that I don't have time to do it. It's just I never it skips my mind.
Yeah, and there's something to be said for that, where like a lot of people feel like, oh, I feel not included because I didn't get invited to something. But I think everybody feels that to a degree. So I would try to be like, oh, I'm not invited to something, or I'm gonna be the one to send out the invites, because otherwise, I mean, I've had plenty of nights and just like where I just am feeling lonely or whatever. I'm just like, oh, nobody wants to hang out with me. But if I make the effort and I hit up everybody and say like, hey, what are you guys doing? Do you want to hang out? Then they feel invited too.
Sure. And
it's a whole process, which has been really cool. And I think, if anything, for me personally, one of the benefits of this whole shutdown and everything like that is that I kind of hit that moment a little bit, just because I was like, oh, like everybody's shut in, but it's kind of tough because you have to be isolated from people and you're not hanging out as much. But when I started the podcast, I was like, okay, there's many reasons why I wanted to start it. One of which was like that I didn't necessarily think of until a couple weeks in. It was like, this is a definite time every week that I'm going to hang out and talk with one of my friends. Like it's the same as like trying to plan out for drinks, because we'll just sit there and we'll just have a couple drinks and talk sports. That's just like what I would do with a friend, but it's planned out enough to where I guarantee I'm talking to somebody every week, and even switching it up or having a couple on or something like that too. So it's a nice way to socialize that's structured, I guess, which helps it not just kind of fall off to the wayside.
For sure. Let's stick on relationships just a little bit longer here.
Show.
I'm trying to think of a good question here that's gonna lean into.
It's pretty big, if that's the question.
No.
Like I said, you got to fake the confidence, people.
I was gonna say, like, what's like the worst date? Let's just say that. I don't want to say worst relationship, because let's say, what's like the worst date you've ever had?
Okay. I've got one kind of in my head. Well, maybe a couple. There's one before I was ever like smooth or cool at all.
Okay.
So in high school, I started dating this one girl that was a trainer. So like, she's just there taping my ankles every day before practice or whatever. So like I'm, kind of get that nurse vibe from her, whatever type of thing. So it was like cool, and started talking. I think I went over to her house after school one day, and it's like the first time, and she lived just within walking distance, so we just walked over, and we were just sitting there like watching TV on the couch or something, and then her and her mom just start getting into this just yelling fit, and I'm just sitting there just real like nervous. I don't know what to do. I think I was way too, I don't even really remember how I left. I was just kind of like, oh, maybe I should go. I don't even know if she noticed that I was just leaving, but I just kind of left. But yeah, that was, if you consider that a date or anything, which that's the closest I'd come to dating back then. So it was like, yeah, that's pretty rough.
I gotcha.
What about you? You got any good bad date stories? I know you almost choked to death, but that wasn't even a.
Yeah, that wasn't really a date. But yeah, that would have been up there for sure. I'm sure there's some bad ones, but the one that comes to the top of my head, because your story reminded me of it.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, and I would consider this like a date. This would have been like 5 years ago or so, something like that. It was a while ago. I was kind of seeing this girl, and she invited me over to watch a movie at her house. And so she asked me if I could pick up beers, and so I did. Brought some drinks over. Well, unbeknownst to me, her children were there, who were like 5 and 6, let's say, some 4, 5, 6, and not, like 2 of them in that range.
Yeah.
And whatever, like I don't care. It just kind of threw off the vibe a little bit. You know, it's like I can't That's all good.
Mm-hmm.
So we're sitting there watching. I specifically remember the movie was Creed.
Okay.
And so, and I had already
With arms wide open.
Yeah. We watched a full Creed concert. So we're sitting there, and her kids are laying on the floor watching the movie.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember her going to the bathroom or to her room or something, and I'm just sitting there, and then she comes back and just full on straddles me and starts like making out with me, and I'm like, your kids are like right there, I was like so like uncomfortable.
Yeah.
I'm sitting here like this, like, what do I do?
Yeah.
And
how long had you been seeing this girl?
It wasn't even that long.
Yeah.
Maybe a couple weeks. Yeah. Like, that's why I thought, okay, this will just be me and her hanging out.
Yeah.
This was maybe only the second or third time we had actually hung out. And so then she gets off me, goes to the kitchen, fucking downs a beer, rips off a bong. I'm like, your fucking children are right here.
Jeez.
Yeah, it was, and then she put her kids to bed. We ended up, like, going to her room and doing the nasty.
Bumping uglies.
Like, I didn't even think we actually did. I think we were just hanging out and fooling around a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
But then, of course, I had to leave, and her mother and brother were in the kitchen.
Jeez.
I don't think they lived there. I think they were just there.
Mm-hmm.
I was just like, what? That has to be the worst.
Yeah, that's just cringeworthy more than anything
all
else.
The way
yeah.
around.
Oof.
And needless to say, that was the last of those dates. I did not want to be put in that situation again.
Yeah, no, that's pretty rough. Did she want to hang out with you after that? Was she like reaching out to you, or was it kind of just like you guys both let it sort of fizzle out?
Yeah, I can't. Sort of that's probably more what happened. I honestly don't remember how that ended.
Yeah, I do have one more.
Okay, yeah, go for it.
And this one, like I said, just no luck with Tinder. But this was maybe 2 years ago or something like that. I'd been back in Montana, but only for like a year or so.
Okay.
Yeah, so one of the many times that I had deleted and then re-downloaded Tinder, started talking to one girl. I was like, oh yeah, cool, let's go grab some coffee. So we hadn't really like talked much on the app, because that's also one thing I hate. It's like I'd rather be in person, because I can talk all I want in person, and then you can actually kind of see personality go off.
That's where we differ.
Yeah, text stuff like
and that's the thing. I prefer like in person.
Yeah.
But I'm just not.
But you can be smoother over a sort of text.
Yeah,
stuff like that.
And I'm just more confident.
Yeah, and I suppose if I put more effort into it, I probably could. But I also, it's like, I don't know. Like I said, I'm much more of an interpersonal person. I
don't blame you for
go
that.
eye to eye with somebody, and I'm funnier because I'm a lot wittier. Like when I kind of just.
That's another thing I lack is like quick wit.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like I am witty, just not quick.
Yeah. And it's always whoever says it first gets the biggest laugh. Unless nobody hears it, then the second person, you're like, hey, what the hell, you stole my... just said that.
Exactly.
Sort of thing. But anyway, so we go, didn't really know each other or anything like that, but we went to go get some coffee. And I told my boys that I was going. I was like, hey, guys, I got a Tinder date, because, like, there's, none of us ever go on dates or anything like that. So it was like, cool. And so they knew where I was, and they knew I was there. We're sitting... Just chatting, and I was like pretty casual, just a first date stuff. So like, oh, like having brothers, sisters, like what do you do? Like I said, it's still that small talk stuff, but you have to on first date type of thing. We're talking, and then she just drops a bomb on me, and she's like, yeah, this is like the first time I've been out since my fiance died. And I'm just like, whoa. So do you like movies? Sort of thing. I wasn't quite that abrupt, but it was like very tense, and I get from her perspective that like she's gonna be awkward about it, but yeah, it was definitely just thrown out there, but I obviously wasn't gonna like make her feel bad or anything like that, so we just kind of kept talking, but she just wasn't ready to start dating or something too. But so like I said, I told my boys like where I was at, just so they kind of knew, and if you know Eric and Theo, like we're tight. People definitely think we're gay, and this will strengthen that fact.
Oh boy!
I think Theo had ordered online. He got a friendship necklace. It was a little heart with 3 pieces. The heart in the middle piece.
Oh my god!
And so they just walk in, and I see them kind of like walk through the door. They don't say a single word as I'm sitting there talking to this girl. They just drop the necklace on the table and keep walking. And so like I look at it, I've got the F in the BFF, the middle F, and they just walk out the door. So I kind of explained it to her, like, oh, those are my buddies, and yeah, we're kind of gay.
That's funny.
Yeah. So it was just the fact of like that might have been not like a bad date, but that was the last of those.
It was
too.
at least awkward.
Yeah, it was quite awkward.
It was a rough. Yeah, I feel that.
Yeah, I haven't really had any like breakup dates or anything like that where someone like throws a fit or like get water thrown in the face or anything. I've had like fights with a girlfriend or something.
Oh,
or
for
just,
sure.
like, arguments.
Can't imagine anybody hasn't.
Yeah, but not really any like public screaming matches, anything like that, or whatever.
Yeah, I can't think of anything quite like that either. I wish I would have thoroughly dug deep on my on my memory bank for that, but those are some good ones.
Yeah.
Let's move on. Talk about so the Verse in 10 podcast.
Yes, ma'am.
And it is Versed in 10. It used to be Thirst in 10, but now it's Verse in 10.
Yeah.
Explain why that is.
So started off Thirst in 10. I'd thought of that concept back when I was in Colorado. Tons of breweries around there, microbreweries, like huge there. Kind of started popping there before it kind of like spread to every place in the United States. Plus, I just like sports, and I remember living in Colorado, wanting to listen to like just specific like Nuggets talk or something like that. But it was almost exclusively you turn on like the radio station there, and it's all Broncos. Right. They don't really talk as much Rockies. They don't really talk as much Nuggets. The coverage is exclusively Broncos, which makes sense. That's their biggest market, you know. But I wanted something that talked more about like other local sports. So in my head, I came up with the name, of course, because that was the biggest part. Yeah, I had to get the pun in there. So Thirst in 10, where I talk about a local beer, and discuss it, and then talk 10. And back then I was thinking 10 local sports topics.
Sure.
I just never got around to it. Kind of had that idea just floating around in my head forever. And then once COVID hit, not doing anything. There's only so much Netflix I can watch before I go crazy. I was like, I got to be productive somehow. It's like, oh yeah, I'll start the podcast. So review one local beer, and then talk at least one local sports topic with 9 other sports topics. So boom, started off. It was going well. Had 2 episodes in. You know, I think we did Street Fight was our first one.
Yep.
Staycation IPA was our second one. And then I'd been thinking, it was like, okay, this is great because I've got an outlet for things that I really enjoy. I love sports and I love beer, but I kind of thought, if there's something I want to put out there as my own, as sort of things that like I'm really into, I do want to throw a faith aspect thing in there because I'm trying to grow as much as I can in my faith, and you know, make that a big part of what I do and be more intentional about it. So I was like, okay, I can switch this up. And like I still drink during the shows and stuff too, sure. but also it's like if I swap out like the beer aspect of it for like a faith-based thing, then it's like my faith and sports, and then now it's more like faith, sports, beer, nerd stuff. Like now it's a bit of everything, and now it's more eclectic in terms of what represents me.
Which is good. It's good that it's molded itself that way.
Yeah, but I also got to keep I was like, oh man, I got to keep the pun type thing in there because I went Versed in 10, which still makes sense and is still like talking sports and like the Bible verse too. But now I kind of talk sports about first half of the show, and I do kind of whatever I want, which is really inspired off of this show, because like you're like, oh yeah, I'm just going to talk about what I want. I was like, oh man, I wish I could do that. Wait, why can't I? It's literally my show, and I can do whatever I want with it. So I still do talk some sports. I'm sure you talk sports on this here a bit.
I actually have only talked about, out of 6 episodes now, I think I've only talked about sports twice.
Yeah? Nice. Well, once football rolls back in, you know that'll be
for sure.
Off. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
But yeah, so I'll pick out a Bible verse, just right at the top of the show, maybe 2 or 3 minutes, just read the verse and kind of my little thoughts on it. Nothing too theological as of right yet. Just something encouraging more than anything else, just a quick word of encouragement, then get into the topics, have a couple beers with some guys, and just discuss things. And now, like I said, now I'm doing stuff that's expanded past sports stuff, where I can just talk about movies or like any kind of random nerd things, video games, you know, just anything I want to, which is really fun.
Well, I like that you said that this podcast inspired you for that, because this podcast is inspired by the fact that you started a podcast in general.
Yeah.
And you know, I've had a podcast before, but we hadn't really been doing it.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was like, I enjoy doing podcasting. I enjoy being on them. But I've never
listening
really
to podcasts for sure, because you're
yeah.
one of the more all the guys that have been on my podcast are big fans of the Joe Rogan podcast, which I still haven't. Michaela's a big fan of it too.
Oh, really?
So it's like, I really just have to get into it because everybody else is.
Yeah, I'm definitely inspired by all the podcasts I listen to, but the fact of doing it was certainly inspired by the fact that you started one, and I was like, why can't I have my own that I host, rather than being like a co-host or rather than being a guest? Like, I'd like to have one that it's mine, So that was definitely inspired by you. Let's kind of piggyback on the conversation of religion, which is something that we really don't talk a lot about. Like,
yeah, I mean, we've had discussions, kind of just sitting at a bar, just like we talk random stuff.
But we never really gotten in depth about it. So I guess let me start by telling you my ask, because I kind of understand where you stand on faith and on religion.
Kind of grew up in the church and stuff like that too.
Right.
Yeah.
So for me, I was raised Catholic, which I was thinking about this, and I feel like everybody who's raised Catholic is just that. They're raised Catholic. They never really like stay Catholic.
It's usually the grandmas that are like the ones that kick everybody's ass into the kick them in, making sure they're staying.
Yeah, it just seems like all the famous people I ever hear that say that, yes, I was raised Catholic. It's never, I'm Catholic.
Yeah.
So I think
like Stephen Colbert, yeah.
Right. I just thought that was funny that So I was raised Catholic. I've been baptized. I've received communion. I went to Sunday school and did all that. But then we never were like regular churchgoers. We would go every now and again, but we weren't like steady every Sunday churchgoers.
More like holidays and stuff.
Kinda, yeah. Definitely for Christmas and Easter.
Yeah. Big shout out to Jesus.
This podcast is brought to you by Jesus, Lord and Savior. But yeah, so my grandma was really big into the religious aspect, and she was the one who kind of kept us in that.
It's always the grandmas, man.
I know.
Yeah, that's my grandma was the one kind of like spearheading everybody into it too.
Yeah.
So, yeah. And
so I don't know. I can't really pinpoint when it fell off for me, the religious aspect of it. I would definitely consider myself spiritual still. I wouldn't consider myself religious per se, because it's just so hard for me to really get behind any one religion.
Yeah, and a lot of it is kind of like tied up in like denominational stuff, and it's like, oh well, are you like Catholic or Presbyterian or Christian or whatever and stuff, and so there's a lot of minutia there that is kind of hard to decipher, and it's like kind of gets lost in the muck of what's really important.
Well, I have a hard time with, there's so many religions, but they all can't be right, can they? Or can they? Or, it's such a hard deal. It's like either one is right and the rest are wrong, or they're all right, which is also kind of a that's a tough situation in itself. Like they both have big implications to them, and it's like I said, I still view myself as spiritual. I believe in a spirit and a soul. I believe. I do believe in a higher power, whether that's the Christian God or just some creator or whatever it is,
some kind of intelligent
something
design
that's
type thing.
Yeah, something that everything kind of is built around.
Yeah,
in a way. I do believe in that. But there's a lot of aspects to religion that throw me off. I personally believe in like evolution. I believe in, but here an interesting thing my grandma told me once was, because I asked her about evolution at a young age, and all she said to me was, well, I actually had a conversation with a priest about this once, and he said to me that whether it's Adam and Eve or evolution, it all comes from the same God. And I'm like, okay. Like, evolution doesn't deny God. It doesn't, like, take away the aspect of God.
Oh, yeah.
Because it can still be created from...
Yeah. And I think there's a lot of misconceptions with anything. And religions, the huge topic. Like I think it's like the most important decision someone can make, like an understanding sort of the universe. It's like the meaning of life sort of question. You know, it's all tied up in that. But I think there's definitely a lot of it has that sort of political aspect where you jump in one camp or the other, and so it's like, oh well, this is something that disqualifies everything, or this is something, so it has to disqualify all those other things, sort of thing. So it's it definitely gets mucked up by all that stuff when and there's a lot, like I said, a lot of misconception. So there's people that are assuming, oh well, like you're like you follow like Jesus and Christianity and stuff. Well, why don't you like oh, you still work on Sunday or whatever and all these other things. But like there's like then as you know more and you study too, it's like you understand the difference of, oh, there's like Mosaic law, which was like pre-Jesus, was like that's what the Jewish people followed based on like what God had told them to do. And then Jesus came and he's like, all right, now I've fulfilled the law, and now you can like live through like faith than some of these acts and some of these like customs that you're supposed to do, which is where a big balance is sort of like, is it faith based, is it acts based sort of thing. And I think Catholicism tends to lean more towards act based, like, oh, say 3 Hail Marys and like you're good to go, or like you get baptized and boom, you're all set.
Oh, I know, you can go to hell for just about anything in Catholic faith.
And I think, I mean, there's something to that, but it's also like what absolves you of that is kind of the questions. Like if you believe that Jesus like absolves you of it, then you put it on him, and then not that you don't have to worry about it, but that's like you're clean like through him. So that's what makes you right with God. And it's not like you have to keep earning your way up, because everyone's broken, everyone's imperfect. So you can never earn your way to be as good as God. You have to put your faith in Jesus. And there's a varying spectrum on how much people put into one camp or the others. And
another like something I definitely feel about with religion is that it definitely gives you a guideline just to being a good person. Like I think there's many positives to religion as a whole. I also think, unfortunately, there's a lot of things with religion that kind of it's very based on interpretation. So like different religions can kind of interpret the Bible and interpret things in the way that they see it, and so that's how they project it upon everyone. And it's like, I've always just figured, and it's good to have a congregation of learning, but I feel like everybody who sees themselves as religious needs to do their own journey and kind of see things through their own perspective, rather than being told this is how it is because this is what we're telling you it is. And also you see a lot of corruption in the church, and a lot of just like with these televangelists or whatever.
Televangelists.
Them, and there's a lot of like manipulation.
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
And so that gives religion a really bad stain, I feel like. I've never had any personal experiences with that, but it's just from the outside looking.
Oh yeah, and that can definitely turn people off to it and stuff. And I think there's definitely something to be said, and a lot of times people view like religion just like in itself as an institution, which there's definitely something of that, but it's like, oh well, this is the church, and this is kind of things the church has done in the past, whether it's like wars or crusades or like or whatnot, or certain stances on political topics or things like that, and that's what draws them away from it. But really, like when it boils all the way down to it, my advice to people, anybody that like is thinking, is that it's not about like this group of people or anything. Like there's things that built into that and stuff too. It's not about the building that you go to. It's not about the political stance with all these things. It's your own relationship with God. And that's what like I said, whether it's like you believe that there's some sort of intelligent design or not, or whether like, and how you think that is, because you can go your whole life without really like trying to resolve that, but everyone has that question and everyone has to deal with that. And I think that's one thing that someone that's trying to grow in faith, like you said, not taking things blindly. Like I've had, like, if you haven't struggled with your faith, there's questions that you don't know the answers to, and there's things that you want to learn and know more about. and some things you kind of have to resolve as just like, this is something I believe in, just on hard just faith. It's just like I believe in this sort of thing. And yeah, you have to ask questions, and not just for the sake of being able to argue somebody. Like, I want to know, this is my eternal soul, you know. I want to figure out like what's real and what's right. So yeah, I think there's a difference between a lot of people seeing like, oh, this is stuff that happens in the church, or this is things that the church has done, like taking all that out of consideration. And it's the most interpersonal thing you do. What do you believe your relationship is with God? What happens when you die? Like that's and how do you resolve that? And I think, like, I know I think this way, but it's like it's out there as this Christian faith, as Jesus like came for that specific reason and for us, and then everything that comes after that as well. But if you can resolve yourself to, I believe Jesus is the way into heaven, is there to save my soul, everyone's like eternal soul, then that's the foundation of what I think then people can build off. But like you said, people are imperfect, and once you stray in any direction from that foundation, then you get interpretations and different types of things, and people arguing over different things. Like Judaism, so like the Jewish people, Muslims, and Christians all have the same first 5 books of the Bible. It's the Torah, it's the Quran, and the Bible. The first 5 books, it's all the same account. And there's different like wordings and things like that too. But I remember when I first learned that, I was like, wait, really? They all believe this same God and that he did these things? And then it strays after that, because then it believes like, oh, well, this person was an actual prophet for this, or this person was the Messiah or whatnot. And then then you get branches off too. But it was interesting to me that it's like those ones that you see the most strife amongst each other. Yeah, it's because they have this belief, and they believe that, like, they're like, oh yeah, you know the basics, but like the important part is wrong, so they just argue over like the important parts that to them, you know. And that's with anything. It can be religion, it can be politics, it can be just, you know, something like that.
I certainly believe that, like you mentioned, you know, any black stains made upon, you know, the church or anything like that. I think you know, religion evolves just as much, so you can't really hold those things accountable for things that happened in the past. But what would, here's something I always like struggle with here too. What's your thought on the afterlife? Like, is it just like heaven, or what is your vision of the afterlife?
And see, that's like the easy question would be to say like, oh, it's pearly gates and it's just a perfect paradise kind of thing. But honestly, it's so outside of human concept. In my belief is that God, as like an entity that created humans, he's essentially incomprehensible. Like our minds can't comprehend that level. It's a different plane of like existence, sort of thing, you know. It's just impossible for us to comprehend it. So it's being one with him, because after humans were introduced to like sin in like Genesis, so like the beginnings of humans and humanity, you know, introduced this, there is something broken in people. And that's not like, I'm not trying to slight people or say like, oh, like a lot of people use that as like, you are filled with sin and you will burn in hell, like repent now, sort of thing. And they're just like really angry about it. It's just a fact that people are broken. Nobody's perfect. You can say it, you can either say nobody's perfect, or you can say you're going to burn in hell. Like, it's the way you deliver it, and essentially means the same thing. Because the only way... Okay, so I kind of use an analogy like this sometimes, but God is, like, in the beginning there was just this pure substance. 100% absolute pure substance. And people were made in his image, and they resembled that enough to where they could, like they could walk with God in the Garden of Eden and things like that. And it was still pure in that sense. But once sin was introduced, even the best person has one spot. It's the 99.9%. But that means they are separated from God now, because God can't be that 100% absolute pure if he's got a piece of him that's 99.9, and so that causes the separation. But Jesus is the bridge between those that are broken, because through Jesus, who is also this pure substance, we're cleaned. Like, we kind of, like, he looks to us and it's like, okay, we're either clean or unclean, but in our place, as a sacrifice for us, in our place is Jesus. So he sees Jesus as this pure substance as well, and so that's our bridge back into that pure higher plane of not like something we don't understand. Is it's pure, like, love and like joy, and it's what were originally meant to be, and because we're created in the image of God. So it's like there's something about human nature that when we do experience joy and love and peace and things like that, that is what we're meant to. That's almost like a taste of what we're meant to in the afterlife, and so I was supposed to live forever, but we can't do that on our own. Another analogy I use is, like I said, and I know I'm rambling too.
No, you're good. You're good.
Another analogy I use is that sort of like I said, that first person that was introduced to sin, they might be totally, like, pure other than the 99.9%. That 0.01% is still enough to separate us totally from God. So I imagine it as God is on one end of the Grand Canyon, and all humans are on this other side. No matter how good you are in life, like, you could be just this world-class long jumper, and you run, you can jump like farther than any humans ever jumped. You can jump 100 feet, just straight up. You can bound that far because you've worked your whole life and you've done everything right, and you can jump that far. You're still that's the Grand Canyon. You're not gonna get to the other side. And that goes the same for somebody who can't jump at all, who's just living, like, in full sin, doesn't care, whatever, but they'll still fall into the pit. The only way is through trust in Jesus, who built a bridge. And so Jesus is this bridge between us and the other side of the Grand Canyon. Yeah, you can keep trying to jump all you want, but there's only so much that you can do, and it's never going to be enough. And that's not to sound like pessimistic, but it's not. It's just impossible to. And there's something to be said for trying to, like, bettering yourself. But once you trust in Jesus and you walk on that bridge, you go the whole way there. And that's...
Sure. Yeah, I think that might be where we might have a disconnect between the two of us. Mm-hmm. And because I do believe in an afterlife. Mm-hmm. And I don't think we're ever meant to know what that is until we find it. Mm-hmm. But as far as, like, the being a good person, and it's hard for me because, I've been on the religious side and I'm kind of strayed away. But I like to think I live my life pretty good. Mm-hmm. And pretty, I do good things. And I think those who do good, the God I feel is not, wouldn't reject somebody who's done good that hasn't found, Jesus. Mm-hmm. And you know what I mean? Like, what if you're somebody who's never been taught, and then but you do good your whole life?
And there's, like, an aspect of that, of, like, the innocence too, and it's like there's prompting of the Holy Spirit, okay, which is essentially now it's like theological stuff, and we were just talking like Holy Trinity stuff this morning too, and some of it was over my head, and a lot of it's over my head, and I'm not saying I'm an expert in any of this too, so please don't take anything I'm saying as, like, just ask your own questions if you have questions, like, to me, and I'm learning too. But part of that aspect of, there's, like, God as one full unit, but at some point there's God the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. And the Son is Jesus, who came down as that bridge, and the Holy Spirit is another aspect of that triune, like, entity. But that's the part that, like, lives in us, and, like, that's our prompts our soul and our spirit in that sense, So, okay. If someone, I think, and so in everyone's life, there's some aspect where they've been prompted by the Holy Spirit, and it's and that can be someone who's never encountered another human being before in their life, and they're just kind of raised in the wilderness or whatever. There's some aspect that God created us, and somehow through their spirit, through His Holy Spirit, they will be prompted as to whether this is like their soul will if they don't know the name of Jesus, like there's an aspect to that where it's like there's an innocence that God leads people through, and there's something within everybody that everybody has that choice.
Sure. Yeah, I definitely, I do believe in, like I said, I do believe in the afterlife and all that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Because I think a lot of that to me comes from, because there's definitely times I've doubted it,
right,
and just questioned it, but then when somebody passes, you find so much more comfort in the thought of that, at least.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's where I found my most comfort, is like knowing, or it's just like feeling that out. Like when somebody passes that you're close to, and then you really start thinking about it, and it's almost like it becomes very clear.
Mm-hmm.
You feel it more deeply that, there's something more.
Mm-hmm.
It's not just here and we're done.
Yeah, it's literally, like I said, the biggest thing that humans can deal with is death, and that's the giant question. And so yeah, there's something to be said for, and I get this for on both sides, because some people will be like, oh well, religion is just so you don't feel bad when people die. I get that can be like someone's opinion of it, but also that's life, and that's kind of part of why it's there, is like we do die.
Right.
What are you going to do with that information? And
yeah.
It's yeah.
So last bit of religious topic, because I had to I thought about this in the middle and I had to bring it up. Thoughts on Scientology and Mormonism and what's the other like Jehovah's Witness?
See, I don't know as much as far as the fine details on like all those things, but like I said, a lot of it's just kind of human error and interpretation as well, and sometimes it's accidental interpretations, like someone with a full like wanting to do good, but they just totally are misinterpreting and misunderstanding something, can spread that misinformation. I mean, the spread of misinformation in today's day and age, like,
well, I find with at least with Mormonism and with Scientology, mm-hmm. these were literally religions just created by some guy.
Mm-hmm.
That they were just like, this is what this is now.
Yeah.
And I'm just gonna I'm gonna write a whole book about it, and
mm-hmm.
this is just what it is,
mm-hmm.
and then people just follow it.
Yeah. And see, that's the tough aspect too, because I mean that's essentially how a lot of these original prophets and disciples and stuff like that, and there's something to be said for actual God breathed information. So it's there's this vision, but whether or not we as individuals can discern this person actually did get a vision, and this is I should listen to what they're saying because God's using them for whatever purpose in this way, or this is just somebody saying something.
Sure.
It's that's again goes back to the Holy Spirit, and I think there's something that everybody has to wrestle with as far as disseminating that information and figuring out what they're picking and pulling from each thing, and whether they believe something in that aspect is true. But like I said, another people do intentionally just full intent be I'm misleading people in this way, and that sucks, and that does happen, and then people follow and lead other people in, so then you get maybe that one person who was misleading people is already dead and gone or whatever, but now you have a bunch of people who are true zealots for whatever they were originally saying, and they're running with it.
So what happens to these people?
See, like I said, there's that same whole aspect of being prompted by the Holy Spirit and knowing as much as you can, and so that it's someone that was like me. I've tried to learn as much as I can about other religions and things like that as well. Not necessarily that I'm saying oh, I want to see if this is right, or make sure mine's the one that checks out. There's an aspect of that too, but it's also how do people come to understand this is the correct way type of thing.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a personal decision in everyone's own heart that they have to be like, this isn't the right way, or this is the right way. And when you have your own thing and your own belief, it's easy to say like, yeah, well, my way is right and every other way is wrong. But there's no real other choice, you know.
See, and so, I wonder too, if perhaps we're all just, I mean, we truly are all part of one divine creation, if said divine creation is the way it is, and that's how I see it too. And I suppose everybody has their own thought on that, because then you have atheists and you have, you know, agnostics and stuff who don't believe in anything, or really don't believe in, or there's people who just believe in directly of science.
Yeah.
But I mean, I think no matter what, we're all designed to believe and feel our own way, and therefore, you know, that's just how it is. Like you said, you kind of have to feel it out in your own heart and soul as to what your direction is. But I don't know that any one direction is wrong, so long as it makes you a good person and a wholesome, and you live wholesomely. I don't know that any one direction is wrong.
I understand. Yeah, I understand where you come from for sure. Yeah,
that's just my perspective on it.
Whereas like it's a prompting. It's like a conscience almost type of thing. Is what you're saying. So it's like if someone conscience kind of can feel its way out in any number of religions too. It's like, oh, like this is the conscience, and this is what bred like Hinduism or whatever, and this is what bred all this stuff.
And too. I wonder if like perhaps every soul is designated to a different place. You know what I mean? Like if we're all just like innately drawn to a certain, you know, a certain way, and therefore it's because our spirits maybe end up in different places when it's all said and done, because we're just immediately drawn to those. I mean, there's so many questions you could really, you know.
Yeah, and like I said, that you can have any question, because I mean, as like on Earth, as far as like people who are like, you need the proof, the physical, mental like understanding of like, this is what happens when you die, and I've seen it, and so like now this is what happens. I mean, that's why I said it's a question of faith, because I mean, then it's what do you actually believe? Because other than that, it's just theorizing and things like that. Whereas like with like religions and different faiths, it's like I do put full faith in that this is what somebody who has an understanding and experience of the afterlife, I believe that's I believe that person, sort of thing. And so and then you go from there, and it's choosing which understanding of that is correct. Otherwise, yeah, you can just say, like, we could say we're in the Matrix, we could say whatever sort of thing, you know.
This could all just be a simulation.
Yeah. So it's really, like I said, it's just more than anything else externally, and there's a lot in just studying as much as possible, but it's just intimate one decision between you and God, and that's what it is at its core, and that's everything else comes after that.
Sure. Let's move forward.
Yeah.
That
was good. Yeah.
Yeah. No, that was
good. Yeah, appreciate it.
No, you're about one of the only people I can really dive into the religion aspect,
which is what I love to, and I think more people should just have conversations about it, not arguments. Like,
no, for sure.
Like literally, yeah. I mean, I'll talk to anybody about it.
I agree with that on like politically, religious. You know, we could talk social issues, whatever it is.
Yeah, that's the only way people can kind of like grow and become better people and learn. Is like,
or at least have understanding.
Yeah, that's one of my. There's a quote from Game of Thrones, because I was kind of going through some Game of Thrones, but one of the things was like, oh, you want me to make peace with my enemies? And he's like, that's what making peace means. You have to make peace with your enemies. You don't make peace with your friends. It's like, yeah, that's how you grow, and that's how you understand people, is like people that are different from you or have some other bit of knowledge, like in one direction or the other, because nobody's the same, so everybody has some bit of information that you don't.
Right.
So if you can be real and like genuine with them and absorb that and disseminate your own information too, that's how people grow, and that's what a lot of people are really defensive against. It's a natural thing too, but that's why we have so much tension and conflict in the world right now.
Sure. We gotta talk about movies.
That's
one of the things I've been dying to talk, because like I definitely have a love for movies, but I don't know if I have a love for movies quite like you. So let's start off by talking about the fantasy movie league.
Okay,
Because
yeah.
I think we got it. I want you to explain it because you've explained it to me already. I understand it. But for anybody watching or listening, maybe they'd be interested in doing the same thing if they're big movie fans or if they have a group of people that are movie fans. So go ahead and explain. This is something you thought up of, or is it something you and your friends?
I came up with it because I wanted to get them into.
So patented by Pow.
Yes.
Yeah. So let's hear it. How's the fantasy? Because it's like fantasy football or fantasy basketball, fantasy sports.
Yeah, because I almost brought it up when I was talking about Tenet because it's like Christopher Nolan, like it's supposed to be the big movie coming out, which, like I said, COVID has kind of ruined all my fantasy leagues, movie league included. But it started about I think we're on the 3rd year of it. My close friends, my high school friends, they're not as into sports, but I do love fantasy football especially, and like I just love kind of diving in. It makes it so I can watch a random game between like the Jets and the Bills or something like that, a game that I would not care about, but I have a fantasy player on there, and that's my whole week is like hinging on it. So I'm way more engaged in every game. I know the players more. I know the game better. It really helped enhance my love for the game, and there's analytics and stuff that come into play. It's just really fun. And even like maybe throw like $50 or $100 in, but that's for the whole season. And so those people that aren't as into just watching the games, like there's still something in it to like hold on to, and so they're still motivated. But me, I'm just a very competitive person.
Yeah.
So I'm motivated just on the sheer fact of I want to win.
Wanting to pick the right team.
Yeah, and being
The
proud
winning
of
team.
being proud of like my draft picks and just it's so much fun, and there's so much that goes into it. So I tried to convince my friends for a while. It was like, hey, you guys, we should do a fantasy football league. I promise you don't have to be crazy into football. It's analytics. Like if you just kind of go and you don't have to watch a single game, you just understand how the point system works and who's doing what, who's hurt, who's like injured, what trades are happening, things like that. You'll get into it, I promise. And they were just like, no, maybe not. But then I had the crazy idea. It's like, well, what if I started a league that was like fantasy sports, but it was for movies? So I called it our Fantasy Blockbuster League. And how this works is at the beginning of every year, so every calendar year, we usually draft at the end of December, because we'll get a list and see what movies have been announced to come out that year. And movies are already in production and stuff too, so we kind of like there's enough information on especially the big movies that are coming out that year. We'll draft towards the end of one year for that next year. So for the calendar year of 2020,
Okay.
And we do snake draft style. Right now we've got 5 of us in the league, and we have 7 movies each. So we go, first person has the first pick, and they go all the way to the 5th. That 5th person has the turn, so they get 2 picks, and then goes back around until everybody's drafted 7 movies. The criteria for how a movie gets scored is twofold. One is its Rotten Tomatoes score, so once it comes out and it's been reviewed, and I've just picked Rotten Tomatoes. I don't necessarily like it as an aggregate for like, oh, this movie's got 100%, so it must be good, or it's got 40%, it must be bad. But it's one that a lot of people use, and it's the most advertised score kind of that people use, and people know of it.
Do you use the Rotten Tomato score, or do you use both the fan and Rotten Tomatoes?
Just the critic Rotten Tomatoes score.
Okay.
So just the critic Rotten Tomatoes score, that percentage gets transferred into points. So if it's 100%, it would get 10 points.
Okay.
If it's 65%, it gets 6.5 points.
Okay.
And so on and so forth. So you have that score for the movie, and also you add its weekend box office. So it's opening weekend box office. And so we'll go off of Box Office Mojo. They update their site as movies come out. And opening weekend, say an average, like a movie can make anywhere, like sometimes they bomb and they barely make anything, or you get the big tentpole ones like the Marvel ones, stuff like that, up 100 million or upwards. We just use the domestic. So say you have a movie that makes 65 million opening weekend domestic, and that'd be a pretty decent one. Say it gets like 75% on Rotten Tomatoes. So you get that 7.5 of the Rotten Tomatoes, and that 65 million we convert to points as well. So that would have 6.5 million.
So for every
10 million, it gets 1 point.
Gotcha.
But yeah, you go one decimal place over.
Gotcha.
So for every 1 million, it gets 0.1 point.
Okay.
So 6.5 for the box office, 7.5 for the Rotten Tomatoes score, and that's 14 points.
Okay.
Yeah. So it would have 14 points, and that would be the total score for that movie. And then that movie's out. And so at the end of the year, you total up all the movies, and whoever has the highest score wins the league.
Sure.
We created a couple trophies, because obviously you got to have some trophies with the fantasy league, and these are inspired. They're really good, because we're a bunch of nerds, so we're like, let's combine a bunch of nerd stuff into this nerd trophy. So it's Thanos' gauntlet with all the Infinity Stones in it, wearing the One Ring from Lord of the Rings, and he's holding Luke's lightsaber. And we've got like a whole podium it sits on. There's plaques that like have engraved names on them for the winners. And then the losers trophy, we're like, we got to make it mirror this, but just in the crappiest way possible. So we've got like just a wooden box, as opposed to the winners trophy sits on like, they look like movie reels, like the movie reel canisters, and it's really exquisite. Eric made them, and like they look great.
Yeah.
And then he made the losers trophy, which is just a wooden box, just a crappy looking wooden box. It says like fantasy loser. And it's just a rubber glove, like a yellow rubber glove, like a dishwashing glove, with like some drawn on Infinity Stones. It's wearing a ring that has like a middle finger going up, so it's just a middle finger ring. Oh, also it's going like this.
Well,
So-
yeah.
And so that's what the hand is positioned as, and it's holding a dildo.
I can't believe that's what's funny to me. Is somebody went and bought that
No, we all went together.
to get the dildo.
Yeah, we all went together to get it, and then like I had to drop something off at my mom's house. So like right after I was like, hey, yeah, look what we got, and she's like, oh, you guys are ridiculous.
That's hilarious.
But yeah, so we have that. We added a couple other elements to it too, and as the years have gone by, we've figured out sort of the systems of like you can do trades, you can do pickups. There's a whole point system that you can trade points as well. So we're like, oh well, what's a big event? So we decided the Oscars every year. We'll just do a normal sort of Oscar pool. We pick 10 categories, so like best director, best actor, yada yada, 10 categories, and we select what we think is going to win the Oscar for that year. Each one we get right, we get a point. So that just gets added to our total at the end.
So this is all included to
Yeah.
the.
Yeah, this is all cumulative,
Gotcha.
like with the movies. So
So it's 1 point for every one you get right.
yes,
Okay.
so you can get up to 10 points. But a new thing we did this year, which is really interesting, is that you have those 10 points or however many points you got from the Oscars, and you can use those to spend in trades. So if I said, oh, I want Black Panther, I have like Spider-Man or something like that, just random movies, you know. So it's like, I'll give you Spider-Man and 3 points if you give me Black Panther. And each of us have our own system on what we've estimated all these movies to make, so we can do trades that way. And now this year's the first year we've kind of implemented the point system, which has allowed for a couple of trades, and it's been really fun and exciting to do it that way. With pickups, it has to be at least 2 weeks before the movie comes out, because then you can get within 2 weeks and be like, oh, it's gotten a lot of critical reviews and it's garbage, so I'm going to drop it for something else. Which sometimes they do get early reviews, but we figure 2 weeks is a hard window, just because sometimes they'll have like a Rotten Tomatoes score and not come out for 6 months because they premiered at some like indie festival somewhere. But we'll get our 2 week window. If it's within that time, you can drop the movie, and then you can pick up another movie. So you're like, oh, I saw a trailer for a movie that I didn't even know was coming out. I'm gonna drop this movie for like something else. Drop movie A for movie B. But you have to send it in the group text that we have, and everyone else in the group has 24 hours to challenge. So if they do want to challenge, if it's 24 hours or up, then that's it. You automatically get your movie you picked up. But other people can pick up the movie you did drop because it's on the waiver essentially now.
Right.
If somebody decides to challenge within that 24-hour period, the rest of the group members make trivia questions based around the movie that's trying to be picked up. So if it was like someone's trying to pick up Forrest Gump, they can set trivia questions based on like Tom Hanks movies or like Robert Zemeckis films or something like that. And the two people like battle it out, and they have a trivia battle. Whoever wins gets to pick up the movie.
Right on.
Yeah. It's a whole system. It's super fun, and it's really, I was surprised how like how well the point system worked out, because I just kind of made it arbitrarily during the first year. But the first like 2 years, all 5 of us had been within like 10 points of each other, so it was like really close. So it seems to work out pretty well, and that box office ratio to the Rotten Tomatoes ratio seems to do pretty well.
Sweet.
Yeah.
So if anybody's interested in that, that's how the game is played.
Super fun. Hit me up if somebody knows how to like make an app and get this like going. Cause
hell yeah, that'd be way cool.
I've thought about that. I was like, that would be really fun to get an app going. And I can see people wanting to do that.
For sure.
Yeah.
So I wrote out some movie questions for you.
Ooh, I know movie questions.
So these are all going to be based on your opinion.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So this is purely opinion based towards you.
Mm-hmm.
So let's just go down. Ready?
Yes.
We'll kind of lightning round it. We don't have to, gotta speed through it, but
just to kind of word and water answers. Yeah.
Favorite genre of movie?
Suspense.
Okay. Like thriller or?
Yeah, I like an Inception type of thing, something like that really makes you think. But I mean, other than that would be like anything nerdy, so fantasy or sci-fi.
So how about least favorite?
Probably romantic movies.
Okay.
And there's something to be said. There's some good romantic movies, but in general.
Gotcha. Okay, how about the movie that made you laugh the most?
Dumb and Dumber.
Okay. That's one of my top ones.
Because it still does, and everything in there is great. But I remember
very quotable
when I first watched it and really got it.
Okay.
Monty Python as well is up there.
There you go. Most overrated movie. Movie that had the most hype but let you down.
At the time, it was Mad Max Fury Road, but I've come to really appreciate that as the visual masterpiece that it is. People talk up Drive, the one with Ryan Gosling, as like this masterpiece. It's a garbage movie. I'm trying to think of movies that I'm like, that's a garbage movie, and people think it's... Oh, wait. What's the question? What movie like let me down the most?
Well, most overrated movie, but it could be... Like, I figure from a personal standpoint, one that you were really excited to see, but...
Well, then that's got to be just one, and it's Avatar: The Last Airbender.
Okay.
Because I was so stoked for it, because I love that show, and we've talked about it a little bit too. It's like, I love that show, and it's like, oh, they're making a movie, it's live action, it's awesome. And it was one of the worst movies I've ever seen.
Are you excited for the live action series?
Yes, because it's being run by the showrunners. And yeah, Netflix.
So let's go off the aspect that you said before, movie that everyone loves, but it's actually not that good.
Mm-hmm.
In that sense of an overrated movie. I know mine.
What's yours? Yeah.
Avatar.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So overrated.
I think it's fine, and especially when it came out, watching it in 3D was a marvel. It was a spectacle. The fact that they're trying to make like 6 more is a little ridiculous to me.
Oh, I hear you.
I might have to come back to that one, because I'm trying to think of one that people generally love.
That's okay. Give us some thought. We'll go. How about best Disney movie? And I'm talking Disney animated. You can include Pixar if you want, but animated Disney movie.
Rewatching The Lion King was incredible. That's got to be way up there. I love Toy Story, if we're including Pixar. But if I'm going just classic Disney animation...
Pocahontas.
Yeah. I'm in that one.
Yeah. Me too. I'm the big fat dude with the...
Savages, barely even human.
So terrible.
My buddy's saying that to me in high school all the time.
That's so terrible.
And he didn't mean anything by it, but it was like, because he would just say like, Pow it did.
Oh yeah. That's so
freaking Porter. I'm a big fan of Hercules too, but Mulan's great. They're all great. So if I had to pick one, I'm just gonna throw out Lion King and Toy Story.
Sure. Okay.
I'm gonna kick myself because I'm
favorite. I already know the answer to this, but favorite movie series.
So Lord of the Rings.
Yeah.
I was like, you might not know, because I was like, oh wait, no,
yeah.
Obviously, yeah. But I mean, the Dark Knight series is way up there. Marvel movies, of course.
Sure. That's where I'm at.
Yeah. Star Wars, except for that sequel trilogy, and there's some good parts to it, but like,
it's still
the original. And I'm a big defender of the prequel trilogy. After going back, there's a lot of good stuff in there. There's some bad stuff in there, but there's a lot of... I mean, Darth Maul with the dual lightsabers.
That was good.
And the pod racing.
I thought Phantom Menace was not as bad as people give it, but
Attack of the Clones is the worst one.
Garbage.
Yeah, but Revenge of the Sith is actually really good.
Yeah, I agree. ho- oh, okay. I actually did put this as a different one. It was disappointed, most disappointed. So, best bad movie.
Oh, yeah. We watch some bad movies and we get a kick out of it. The Room has got to be way up there because we quote that. Yeah, probably it's The Room.
Okay.
Yeah. Have you ever seen The Room? Yeah, you'll have to watch it at some point. Yeah.
All right. Worst movie theater experience.
I mean, this isn't necessarily just like because of the reasons you would normally think with like, oh, it's like someone was kicking the chair or something like that. But I was watching a movie with some friends, and I was watching a movie with some friends, and there was a girl in the group, and she was like babysitting some kids, and like she gets a call in the middle of the movie.
I'm already annoyed.
No, it's not an annoying one. Like I said, it wasn't like an annoying one.
Oh,
It's just like, and then like in the middle of the movie, it turns out like those kids' dad like committed suicide.
Oh my god.
Yeah, and so it was. Yeah, it was.
Did she have her phone on in the movie? I'm just kidding. That's horrible.
No, it was like she went outside, took the call and stuff, and it was that's the one that jumps out because I mean.
It kind of
just... Other than that, you get the normal like annoying movie stuff.
Yeah,
but I mean, that's the one that jumps to my head is like that was.
Well, because that's a real damper on the evening.
And it just sucks in general too and everything too. But
sure.
But yeah, I'd say worst experience. I don't know. There's just annoying people sometimes, and people that talk during the movie or just laugh too emphatically at stuff that's not funny or whatever.
I begin to hate the theater, honestly, because of all that.
So yeah, I usually go on opening nights, and that crowd tends to be better because they're all paying attention.
Yeah, they're all like devoted enough to go at that time.
Yeah,
I agree. And last question:
mm-hmm.
Favorite movie of all time?
I'd probably have to go Inception still.
Really?
Yeah, it's I love Christopher Nolan. That's always been my answer. I love Fellowship of the Ring though because I watched that probably more than any other movie. But yeah, I'll probably go Inception.
Sweet.
Yeah.
Right.
What's your favorite movie?
It's hard because I base it on genre.
Mm-hmm.
If I had to have one movie, honestly, if I had to have one movie, it's so hard.
Yeah, because it's different for me. It's like different, like what my favorite movie is, or if I could only watch one movie forever, I would watch Lord of the Rings, Fellowship of the Ring, probably.
Because like Big Daddy is one of my all-time favorite movies. Joe Dirt, obviously.
Yeah.
Endgame, is up there. Yeah. But like, if I had to go overall, just like for a cinematic aspect, The Departed. Oh,
Departed's great.
The Departed would probably be my favorite.
See, so we both got some Leo movies.
Oh yeah.
Okay, I will throw this out there too, just kind of as my movie like preference type thing. There are 3 iconic movie moments for me that stand out and always give me chills. They're the greatest cinematic things that have ever happened to me. Let's see. One is, I guess spoilers for Lord of the Rings, Phantom Menace, and...
People have had 20 years to see these movies.
But Endgame as well, too. But, I mean, everybody saw that.
Okay.
So one is Gandalf when he's got the staff in the Mines of Moria and he's facing against the Balrog. It's like, you cannot pass. It comes up, just like, flames up. It's like, you shall not pass. Like every time. And then just like, that incredible. Gives me chills every time. Love that.
Okay.
Perfect. Another one is the Phantom Menace when the sliding doors open
and there's Darth
and then
Maul.
Darth Maul's like, and then the John Williams score comes in with Duel of the Fates. Might be, other than the iconic original theme, the best music Star Wars has ever had.
Isn't that
yeah. And he's just like sitting there and just.
Is that the?
Yep. And I remember in the theaters, and I think they had shown it in the trailers too. But like Star Wars was already iconic, but then you just like this dude comes up, lightsaber, and just second lightsaber. Oh my gosh! And freaks out, and then the best choreographed lightsaber duel in all of Star Wars with the greatest music ever, and just crazy iconic. Also gives me chills.
Okay.
And then the third one, more recent, but a 10-year build-up, and I'd already been into movies and learned and like appreciated movies more than any other time in my life. Avengers Endgame, my favorite character as well. They're sitting there and okay, so Thanos throws Cap to the side. He's like seemingly knocked out somewhere. Throws Tony aside, seemingly knocked out somewhere too. So it's him and Thor facing off. Thor goes. He's trying to get his axe, I think, and he's trying to push it onto Thanos. He can't quite get it. He's got it like right there. It's pushing in. Then Thanos like gets power, just uses the power gemstone, launches Thor across the way, and then Thor's kind of getting up. You can kind of see him, and then you see Thor's hammer raise a little bit off the ground, just slightly. Camera's on Thor, so you're like, oh, he's got to be calling for it, and then just cut to Captain America. Whoosh, gets it. Oh, and he's wielding Thor's hammer, which he's worthy. This is kind of like the epitome of his character arc too. That like even Tony says it in the first Avengers. Everything special about you came out of a bottle. But the scientist Dr. Erskine that like gave him the injection, he's like, no, the best thing about you, why I chose you, is because you're a good man. And that's just like, it's not about him being a super soldier. It's about him being a good man. And he's worthy. And then also like they throw in a little bit of Marvel humor in there too. And Thor's just like, I knew it. But then he goes off and he's like fighting Thanos, which culminates in...
There's so many chilling moments.
Which culminates in the best scene, one of the most iconic scenes in movie history. Yeah. Everybody's coming out, Cap on your left. They're all assembled right there. Avengers, whoosh, assemble. Brilliant. So those are my three...
That's the first time and only time he says it in the series too.
Those are my three most iconic movie moments that like always give me chills. That'll like...
See, for me, I would agree with that on the, but in that movie, it's got to be, I am Iron Man.
Yeah.
It's got to be that. Like I get chill. Like I've never felt more emotions, like different emotions at once.
Yeah.
Than in that moment.
For sure.
But yeah, great movie. Yeah, that's pretty much all I got for you, man. Unless there's anything you want to add.
I don't think so. I mean, this was good. A good convo. Kind of covered a wide swath of topics, you know.
Yeah, for sure.
Ladies, religion, and movies. I mean, that's
pretty
that's what I'm about.
I guess we could talk about the movies you've been in.
Oh yeah. I've just kind of started in on acting. I might even save some of that for like next time I want to.
Sure.
And there's a few. None of them have come out yet, but they're sort of in post production. There's one that's Custer's Last Stand, sort of historical documentary, like drama type thing, and I've got a couple roles in that one. I think I die like 3 times in it. Well,
yeah, maybe we can save it for the next one, just because we've definitely covered a lot of main topics.
Yeah,
here,
maybe
so.
I think maybe I'll say some, because I know there's a trailer for at least one of them that's out right now, or there's a trailer for the other one I'm in too, and then there's commercials and TV stuff and whatnot too. So, but
yeah, that's true. We'll talk about that.
Yeah,
we'll save it all for the next one. But yeah, so check out the Verse 10 podcast. I'll leave the link in the description. And yeah, anything else you want to plug or?
No, just keep listening to Life's a Garden. Catch us out on Versed in 10, me and Dakota.
Yep.
Talking a couple of solid topics. You know, it's very spur of the moment, but we got some real good discussion out of it.
It was a good one. I like that one.
Yeah, but thanks for having me on.
Man.
I'm excited to be on again.
Until next time.
Yeah, sweet dreams. I'll catch you on the flip side.
Yeah. And don't forget, life's a garden. Dig it.